Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a really stark and powerful prophecy from the book of Ezekiel, specifically chapter 5. And this one details a judgment that is just severe, it's public, and it's unlike anything seen before. So let's get into it and see why this is one of the most chilling passages in Scripture.
Okay, let's dive right into the heart of this thing. It all kicks off with this incredibly chilling declaration from God himself. I mean, this one line, it just sets the stage for everything devastating that's about to unfold.
So the first part of this prophecy, starting right there in verse 8, it's a direct, public, no-holds-barred declaration of judgment against Jerusalem. There is absolutely no room for misunderstanding here. And just listen to the emphasis in verse 8. Behold, I, even I, am against thee. God is making it crystal clear that this isn't some random historical accident. No, this punishment is coming directly from his hand. And it's not going to be a private matter. It's going to be a public spectacle, right there in the sight of the nations. Then we get to verse 9, and it just doubles down on this. The judgment is described as, well, completely unprecedented. This is not just another war, not just another conquest. This is a one-of-a-kind moment of divine reckoning, all because of what the text calls their abominations, their deep, deep-seated sins. So to put this unprecedented idea into perspective, let's look at some history. I mean, you have the Roman destruction in 70 AD, you have the Holocaust, both absolutely catastrophic events, right? But the source material here frames that Babylonian destruction back in 586 BC as the benchmark for suffering, the ultimate fulfillment of this unique judgment Ezekiel was talking about. Okay, so we've had this big declaration of an unprecedented judgment. Now, the prophecy gets specific, and it is horrifying. Verse 10 reveals just how desperate things are going to get during the siege. And wow, this is a truly shocking prediction. We're told the famine will be so absolute, so complete, that it will lead to cannibalism within families. Fathers eating sons, sons eating fathers. You know, this wasn't just thrown in for shock value. It was meant to paint a picture of the absolute bottom-of-the-barrel desperation they were about to face. But here's the thing, as horrific as this is, it wasn't a brand new idea. This was actually the ultimate, final consequence for breaking the covenant, that sacred agreement they had with God. In fact, Moses himself had warned them centuries earlier, you can find it in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, that this would be the final curse for disobedience. And later you see it documented by prophets like Jeremiah, which just confirms the grim accuracy of it all. So you have to ask, why? Why a punishment this severe? Well, verse 11 gives us the answer. It reveals the specific reason, really the final straw, that triggered this whole thing. The source material explains this with a really powerful analogy. Think of it like this. If idolatry was like adultery, then bringing idols into the temple, well, that was like defiling the marriage bed itself. I mean, they brought their spiritual betrayal right into the house of God, the one place that was supposed to be for that sacred, intimate relationship. And the text doesn't leave us guessing what these detestable things were. Oh no. In a vision, back in chapter 8, Ezekiel gets a full tour, and he's shown exactly what was going on inside the temple. And it's basically a catalog of corruption. Just look at the depth of the spiritual decay. It was totally systemic. You've got an idol, the image of jealousy, set up right at the altar's gate. You have the elders, the leadership, secretly bowing down to images of animals. You've got women performing pagan fertility rituals right there at the temple gate. And then the priests themselves are literally turning their backs on God's holy place to worship the sun. It's just staggering. Okay, so we've seen the why. Now let's look at the how. How is this punishment actually carried out? Well, verse 12 lines up perfectly with that symbolic act Ezekiel performed with his hair at the start of the chapter. It's all about a methodical, complete, three-part judgment. The population gets split into three. A third of them, they're going to die from pestilence and famine, trapped inside the city. Another third, killed by the sword, by the Babylonian armies surrounding the city. And the last third, they'll be scattered to the wind, taken into exile. But even then, they'll be pursued by hardship. The message is clear. No one was going to escape this. Then verse 13 reveals the purpose behind all this fury. And there's a phrase in here that's really key, but it's also really easy to misunderstand. It says, I will be comforted. Now that does not mean God is taking pleasure in all this destruction, not at all. This is a really important theological point. comforted here means that divine justice is satisfied. It's like a debt has been paid. The consequences required by that broken covenant have finally been carried out, and God's righteousness is vindicated. So think of it more like resolution, not relish.
And finally, we get to verses 14 and 15, which describe the aftermath, the lasting legacy of Jerusalem's fall. Because this wasn't just supposed to be a private tragedy. No, this was meant to be a lesson for the whole world. And this contrast is just so powerful. You see what they were supposed to be versus what they became. Israel was called to be a light to the nations, right? A shining example of God's covenant. But because of their rebellion, they became the exact opposite. A reproach and a taunt, a walking, talking cautionary tale for everyone else.
Verse 15 really hammers this home. Jerusalem's downfall was designed to be a lesson to the nations around them, a reproach, a taunt, an instruction, and an astonishment. Basically, their failure was going to serve as a public lesson for the whole world about the real consequences of rebellion.
And that public humiliation, that astonishment, became a huge part of Israel's identity for centuries to come. It's something that echoed through the diaspora, through the Holocaust, and you could even say into modern times. This idea of being a people that leaves the rest of the world, well, astonished.
And that brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. The source material suggests that Jerusalem's central, often tense role in world affairs today is, in a way, a continuation of this prophecy. So the question is, how does this ancient prophecy of Jerusalem being an astonishment to the nations continue to unfold, even now?